Of all the books in the Bible, none has fired our imagination more than Apocalypse, the book of Revelation to John. On the Greek Isle of Patmos, Apostle John has visions of angels, beasts, the throne of God, surrounded by the rainbow and the sea of glass, Lamb who turns into the conqueror on the white horse, dragons, etc., etc. These verbal images do resemble those from the medieval astronomical and astrological maps. Look at the ancient sky map painted by great Albrecht Durer. Astrology was an essential part of life in 14th–16th centuries. Therefore the Apocalypse prophecy edited and printed during this time contains medieval astronomical and astrological images. The astronomical interpretation of verbal images of Apocalypse yields the following horoscope of planets in the constellations. Planet Jupiter in Sagittarius, Planet Saturn in Scorpio, Planet Venus in Lion, Planet Mars in Gemini, close to Taurus, under the feet of Perseus, Planet Mercury in Balance, Sun in Virgin, Moon under Virgin's feet. The tradition says the Apocalypse was written in 95 AD by Apostle John. The Apocalypse we know today is the last book of the New Testament. First complete New Testament was edited only in 1515 in Basel, Switzerland by Erasmus of Rotterdam on the basis of half a dozen of sources. The text of the Apocalypse comes from the manuscript Erasmus lent from the German biblical scholar Reuchlin. The only moment in time when the combination of planets and constellations described in the Apocalypse could have been observed live from the island of Patmos was from the 25th of September 1486 to 10th of October 1486. So, when was the Apocalypse, book of Revelation to Apostle John written? We are accustomed quite well to thinking that the events described in the Bible, and especially in the Old Testament, date back to an epoch so distant that it can hardly be called historical in the usual sense. We seem to know everything there is to know about these times and these characters, in particular that most of them date to epochs preceding the New Era by a couple of millennia, and that the events described in the Bible took place in and around the Middle East for the most part. Could all of what we know be untrue? Even the most scrupulous of scientists who ever had to tackle the gigantic array of data contained in the Bible were basing their research on the existing chronology. The sole exception to this is a group of mathematicians who have used the newest statistical methods to analyze the Bible from an altogether different standpoint, having revised the consensual chronology completely prior to that. The results are astonishing to say the least. We learn that the biblical Jerusalem was in fact located on the Bosphorus and known as Constantinople, and that the biblical kingdoms of Israel and Judah can be identified as the medieval Roman Empire. The familiar characters transform into the medieval doppelgangers, which are a lot less familiar to us but known quite well to historians.
This book will change your entire perception of history forever. What if ancient Rome, Greece and Egypt were invented during the Renaissance? What if the Old Testament was a rendition of events in the Middle Ages? What if Jesus Christ was born in 1053 and crucified in 1086 AD? Sounds unbelievable? Not after you've read History, Fictional Science by Anatoly Fomenko, the leading mathematician of our time. He follows in the footsteps of Sir Isaac Newton and finds clear evidence of the falsification of history. Armed with logic, astronomy and computers, Anatoly Fomenko proves that the history of humankind is dramatically different and drastically shorter than is generally presumed. History, Fictional Science is now available in bookshops and on Amazon.com.